Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin, and I am located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach and I'm in San Diego, California.
We want to thank you so much for listening or watching or both, whatever you're doing as you join us today. We do want to let you know we often mention on this podcast the names Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks. If you are new and maybe this is your first episode you're listening to and you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can find out more about them by searching for Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks here on YouTube if you're watching us here, or your favorite web browser. You can also find out more about them on their own website, abraham-hicks.com. Each week we start our discussion from a different jumping off point, and this week I have the suggestion of our jumping off point, and it's because of a video from another YouTube creator that I watched this week. Is someone I follow who's a really great YouTube follow. Because on this podcast we've talked multiple times about specifically my addiction to reading and viewing bad negative news stories from the American news media, and I suppose other countries' medias, but mainly ours. And why the different factors of how our brains work and evolution and all that sort of stuff, of like why bad news is so sort of naturally attractive to us. Why we, kind of, there's this term now called doom scrolling, where we just like get on news sites or
Now that must feel wonderful.
yeah.
Not.
Um, so I watched this video. It was recommended to me because I subscribed to her channel. Her name is Leeja Miller, Leeja Miller. We can try to put the link to this video in our description. Maybe we can try to do that on video on YouTube. Maybe I can help Stephanie do that. But she came out with a video recently, 3 days ago, in fact, called "Why You Love Bad News," and she does a fantastic job.
A great title.
It really is. She does a fantastic job of explaining a lot of the stuff that you and I, Stephanie, have talked about here, but in greater detail with hardcore data of why our brains are attracted to negative news stories and how it kind of becomes a feedback loop where the news media companies and outlets know that we prefer, in the moment, most of us click more on negative news stories than positive. So media outlets create more negative news stories, and then we click on more of them and it just goes on.
And momentum. That's momentum.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to an Abraham the other day, and it was an older one, because they used to many years ago talk about the 17-second. Whenever we focus on something for 17 seconds, momentum kicks in. Our law of attraction responds to our focus, and then momentum is created. And so the more we talk and speak about something, more thoughts about that will come up, and then we'll continue. And so, like, whenever I'm in a bad mood, if I keep thinking those thoughts all day long, by the end of the day, midday, freak a deek, I'm in a big ass hole of negativity and feeling horrible.
One of her best suggestions, and I've heard this before, but she explained it a lot better, like why it's really good to do it. Like, if you're trying to wean yourself off of negative news, one great way to start is to set, like, I will not read the news until like noon, because she talks about specific studies that have been done where people will wake up, read negative news stories in the morning, and it's literally like a law of attraction, art of allowing. Your action is correct, but like millions of Americans do this because we have.
I know, and that freaks me the F out. I just have to say, like, okay, this is like a true response from me, because
Yeah.
I know what it's like. Like for me, I'm just in this habit. I've been doing it for many years now of, I get up in the morning, use the little girl's room, come back, grab my iPhone, put in my earbuds, and I'll listen to a meditation. Or in the past year or so, I'll listen to like a 5-minute Abraham video. just recently, because I had a Reiki session and she had me put a headset on because there was a lot of noise around us, and it was just all chimes, like
Mm,
really pretty music and chimes. And I thought, Stephanie, we really need to go back to that. So the last couple of days I've been listening to, because I love the singing bowls. And
mm,
so I've been listening and just trying to like quiet my mind. It's not that none of us are never going to have no thoughts. I was telling this to a client the other day. It's not that you're not going to have any thoughts. It's like you're going to have thoughts, but it's really the fact of like closing my eyes, lying down or sitting, whichever. I prefer lying down, and just being.
yeah.
My head's going to still think, but there's something about that act that just calms me. And then if I'm listening to something that feels good, that's putting me in a better energetic state.
Yeah.
And then for me, I finish up with some prayer, and, I have a couple of other things that I do. And then I'll read some visioning work that I have that I'm, focusing on. And then that's it.
Yeah.
I ask, please guide me throughout this day for my highest good and keep me secure. That to me is like taking my vitamins. That's like for me taking my mental, spiritual, emotional vitamins.
Yeah.
That sets the tone. And then I can go. And it's funny because in that morning time, I feel really good. I
Yeah.
feel really good. And then midday, yeah, not so much. A few hours later, not so much, because things are happening. The outside, whatever it may be, a phone call, I run into somebody, they're not in a great mood. I'm thinking thoughts that are not allowing beautiful, life-giving thoughts. But when people tell me that they read the morning paper, I cringe, because that morning paper or the news, it's like 58 minutes of negativity, and maybe if you're lucky 30 to 60 seconds of something good.
Well, you're talking about watching a traditional broadcast, which a lot of people do, but I think what is a lot more common is people now use their alarms to wake up on their smartphone, either their Android or iPhone, which I do. Um, their phone wakes them up. They wake up, and because they have this like electronic connection to the phone, because they have to like on mine, I have to turn off the alarms. I have to or mark them that they did their job or whatever.
Yeah.
Then if I have, and I'm not singling out Google News, but if I happen to have Google News on my phone and I have the alerts set on it, I will see the little red numbers of like how many stories there are, and that's a signal. Now, I could have been lying in bed right before, like when I heard the alarm and I opened my eyes. I'm not necessarily thinking like, oh, I want to read a bunch of bad news about what's going on in the world. But
No, but it could be the thought of what's going on in the world.
yeah, but it also doesn't even have to be that. It's just like I need to turn off my alarm, and then visually the thing that happens is once I turn off the alarm, I see the little red dots or the alert, and that's your brain that's like, oh, well, something needs my attention, which is what those alerts are for.
So
And
then I would suggest, you had talked in last week's episode about the I Am app.
yeah, mhm.
I would set that for that time,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
for that to come on and be like,
absolutely, yeah, way better. Because then the next thing that happens is you open the Google News app, and
oh,
you could be in an endless loop. Like, not the great thing about a traditional television news broadcast in America, at least, is like at least it ends at 30 minutes or 60 minutes. Google News never ends. Like, you can click on this and Google News, and again, I'm not singling out Google News. There's Apple News. They all do the same thing.
yeah.
But the job of the algorithms of those things is, oh, you clicked on a horrible story about what's going on in this country. Here's 7 more stories from 7 more
Yeah.
different magazines and TV stations, also telling you other terrible things about that story you're interested in. And you can just be like, again, your brain is kind of running the show instead of your spirit, and you're like, yeah, I am interested in that. I do want to read this. But the problem is, you're like, that's terrible. That's awful. That's terrible. That's awful. And we've talked about this before. Leeja explains it much better in her video, so I recommend everybody go watch it. But it's that thing of like, it's not just that you're feeding yourself with negativity, although that is very bad, and not helpful to what you want to do. But it's also that thing of like, if say if you have a partner and you wake up together in the morning and your partner says, "Oh, we have a problem. The dog needs to be let out." That's something you can do something about. you can get the dog, you can take them for a walk, come back, and that problem is solved. The problem with reading 7 stories in a row about a war happening in another country is that there's nothing you can physically do about that in that moment. There's nothing that you can do that's,
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
well, in the traditional sense that people think. That's what I mean. Like,
And I think that's where we need to,
right,
like, it's important for me to remember, oh, what can I do? I can pray for them. I can send them love and light.
and energy. Yeah.
I can trust that in this horrific moment right now, they're shooting out rockets of what they do want.
Yeah.
And, whenever someone's in an accident or I hear that someone's ill, I'll say, and they say, pray, I'll say, please guide all who are involved for their highest good. I pray that they be open to receive all that they are needing.
Yeah.
And may everyone that comes in contact with them is supporting them, fill them with love and light. I do that because that's what I can do.
Yeah.
And that it does make a difference.
I totally agreed. And what a lot of people experience, though, is finding out all that bad information and feeling instead like they're unable to do anything, right? Because they think, your immediate thought is like, well, could I go to that country and help, broker peace or whatever? It's like, well, that's not my job. Like, and I don't have money for the plane tickets and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But anyway, so again, everybody should go watch Leeja's video. But the thing I was thinking about is I heard another lecturer or speaker at one point in the past, and for the life of me, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember who it was, but they talked about this concept of putting the thought in your mind: what if there's nothing wrong? And
Ah, you said that earlier, and I loved that.
because our brains are so, we've talked before. Again, Leeja's video talks about it. Our caveman and cavewoman brains were set up to keep us alive and protect us. So it was constantly looking for like negative situations, not because we loved negative situations, but if a tiger was coming to attack our cave and our whole family, we needed to identify that quickly. She gives a great example in that video of like if a cave woman was searching for food and she came upon a grove where there's all sorts of blueberries that she had never found before, the information is like really good. It's like, oh, I found lots of great food for my family. I can gather all this. It'll feed us for a week. The problem is if there is a tiger in that grove, the brain needs to prioritize the negative over the positive. Because if you prioritize the berries, you will be eaten by the tiger. So the brain has to prioritize.
Maybe not. Maybe in the world of attraction, something would get the tiger.
But we're
Or
okay. I see where you're going, but
or her hunter had
trying
seen
to keep
it and shot an arrow at it.
uncharacteristically for me, I'm trying to keep this story simple. But anyway, but it's important in that for those people to prioritize
I
the
had to pay Angel's advocate.
survival information. But the problem is today, there, for most of your day, there is no tiger attacking you. So prioritizing the negative actually works against what we want to do. We're trying to live the sort of privileged life we have, where a lot of us have enough shelter, enough money, enough food to get through, most days. And we just want to bring in more positive stuff. We don't need to defend ourselves against active threats to our survival and existence all day long. Like we just are not in that. In fact, most of the threats today that can take us out, like a car accident or a crime or whatever, they're gonna take you by surprise, and you won't be able to really do much. So being negative about it all the time doesn't really, like, if you think about, oh, there's so much crime in my city, oh, there's so much crime in my city, like that's not going to help. It's just going to attract crime to you.
I was gonna say it's gonna attract what you don't want. Yeah.
I have to say too, there's a great commercial. I'm a huge college football fan in addition to other things, and there's a great commercial right now where uh, there's this guy's playing a fan of a college football, like an obsessed fan of his college football team, right? And he watches all the games on TV and he's obsessed. And he's walking down the street and he bumps into the quarterback, the current star quarterback for that team. And the star quarterback starts doing all these things that the traditional um, myths about things that bring you bad luck. So he walks under 7 ladders, and then he picks up a black cat and like has it going like all this stuff. And the quarterback is walking like forwards, and the fan is walking backwards. And he's like, no, no, that's bad luck. Don't do that. Don't do that. And he just keeps doing things that are like traditionally bad luck and having no
Yeah.
problem with it.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, the fan is just beside himself. And because he's focused, he's walking backwards and focused on the quarterback, who he's so worried about, he falls in a manhole.
Oh.
And the quarterback is like, well, that was weird. What that evokes for me is like, yeah, if you just think negative, think negative, think negative, I mean, A, you're going to attract that situation. B,
Yeah.
you're not going to see the positive. Like, you're not going to see, the all the good that's out there. And that's what happens for me.
And I'm not going to feel good in the moment. I'm going to feel horrible.
Yeah.
And I have a choice of whether I feel better or feel worse. Period.
And Leeja says in that video, like, there is a way, and I've heard Abraham say this too, there is a way to be informed reasonably about whatever's going on in your community, your state, your country, the world, that you would like to be informed about without overwhelming yourself, just drinking in, because basically our brains were not built for that. She talks, something I didn't think of is like, if you read information like in a newspaper in the old days, that's slower than watching a 30-second video. Like, we can now show you a horror and deliver it to you directly with images, words, sounds in 30 seconds that your brain used to be able to have like 10 minutes to read a long, slow story and kind of meander through it and not have it as like a fire hose. But now we can literally, I've seen news stories of like 12 seconds, what's going on in the war and whatever in 12 seconds. And they just show you horrible images. And it's like, oh my God, that's awful.
But you know what? On the flip side of that too, I think I've mentioned here before, is I really love watching reels on Instagram.
Yeah.
And, one of my actions for the week is to laugh more. And so, and I'm even thinking of having that be my personal plate, changing it from power and joy to laugh more. But like, I'll watch, it's, I don't know, are they 2-3 seconds long or whatever? The first time I might watch it, I might kind of put a smile on my face, but I love, because it repeats, I'll watch it the second time, I'll start to smile, laugh. By the 5th time, I'm cracking up. Like, some of those, oh my God. So it doesn't take me long to get laughing, and I'll, spend 10-15 minutes on it, and I'm like feeling amazing when I'm done.
So I have a couple of points there. You're absolutely right. One point is, your feed for Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts or TikTok, which are kind of all the same thing, is determined by the algorithm, which the algorithms are always a mystery because the companies that run them, change them, whatever. But the main thing is like, it's similar to law of attraction. It's like attracts like. Like, if you like a story about something, the algorithm typically feeds you more. So the great thing about your Instagram Reels feed is you only like click on and rewatch good stuff. Now, what I need to do, I've needed to do for a while, is clean my feed, because I get great stuff from you, my sister Kelly, like, other friends that send me good stuff. I also get stuff that I've clicked on in the past that is like negative news stories and stuff like that. So like, it's partly my own fault, but it's partly the algorithm, like helping it along. The second thing is that Leeja actually talks in that video in a really good way about how, and just I just watch a ton of YouTube. Like, I just love YouTube, and I just watch more of that than anything nowadays, pretty much. Like,
really,
it's my go-to media. So there's a suggestions page, which you, again, run by the algorithm.
Yeah.
And one of the things on there that I've realized it, but when she talked about it in the video, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense, is that extreme negative words in the title.
Oh yeah.
Jack views like you wouldn't believe. Like, if you have a video,
so we're titling our titles wrong, like, wait.
100%, like 100%. And
man.
But it actually warmed my heart, because
so should I say, what if everything's wrong instead of what if nothing's wrong?
Well, the thing is, the word wrong will
Yeah.
bump up the views.
Oh, okay. All
Just
right.
having the word
So
wrong in
what
there.
if nothing's wrong? Okay,
Yeah.
so we're good.
That's the irony of Leeja's title for that video is why you love
uh
bad news. It's a great title because bad is one of
so
the,
bad,
yeah,
even though she put love. Okay.
yeah, bad. But if you can put
Mm.
bad,
Any negative word, right?
but
Huh. Interesting.
the more intense, the better. So like terrible, awful, and
Yeah.
like like I've noticed this for a while that like
How to stop feeling awful. Okay.
there's a news outlet that I think is good people doing good work. They're called the Young Turks, and it's kind of this liberal, independent news channel. But they most of their stuff's like YouTube driven. But one thing that is super, and I'm gonna try to take a vacation from them. But in addition to the other negative news that I'm watching, but one thing they do they've been doing it for a while and drives me crazy is like they will their title for the video makes you think that the story that they're going to tell in the video is like I'm not even exaggerating, like 100 times worse than it actually is.
Mhm.
Like they do this thing where they construct the sentence for their title where it's like so and so makes, I mean it's like so extreme, so and so makes catastrophic mistake
Oh yeah,
and
I've seen
ends
those.
their career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you watch the video and like the mistake was bad, but it was not
Yeah.
catastrophic,
Yeah.
and it did not end their career.
So they're getting the view.
Yeah,
They're getting the hit. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
honestly
But
that's
they're not delivering.
there's tons of channels doing this, but that to me that's openly deceptive.
Yeah.
Like if it's actually factually not true, like you're exaggerating it to the point that's not true,
Yeah.
that's lying, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, that's neither here nor there. The reality is like again we have a feedback loop where YouTube creators en masse are realizing, oh, if I put a video like how to feel happier, that video is not going to get many views because it just doesn't attract that lizard brain thing that
Oh,
we're
uh-huh.
looking for. So
Yeah.
more and more YouTube creators are using from like, oh, you know, I try this for the first time and you know, I wipe out and destroy myself. Like that title will get, you know, and then maybe it's like a guy slipping on a slip and slide for 3 minutes and it's fine. But like that title, you know, so it's again,
I did watch a reel the other day and I sent it to a friend who used to live in New York and she comments because it was obviously winter. I didn't remember where it was at, but all these vehicles are sliding
oh,
down the
I've seen,
hill. And
yes,
so she comments back, yeah, I've never had to deal with ice, only snow. And
yeah,
me, someone who's from California, I see that and I think of snow, right? But and then the people like I'm thinking, oh God, I hope they have a chiropractor because you see them sliding, they're all sliding, some of them fall in their butts because it's ice.
yeah,
They come out to walk their dog and they like the dog goes sliding down the street
yeah,
and they like fall and tumble on their butt and slide down.
yeah. So as someone who was born and raised and lived my first 28 years in the state of Maine, ice and an incline are not your friends, as those videos
Oh
demonstrate.
goodness.
But I want to like we only have a little bit of time left, but I want to bring it back to I wish I had talked more about that sentence. What if nothing's wrong? Because I think the
Well,
reality,
now it's time to do it. What if nothing's wrong?
because I suspect it's really uncomfortable even to say this, but I think that's the truth. I think the truth is nothing is ever wrong. Like
Abraham
our
says
lives
that.
are wrong.
Abraham says that because even when I'm experiencing contrast, I know whether consciously or not, what I do want, and it's in my
Yeah.
vortex. And then it's my job. What is I heard them say 100% of the work is to increase my receptivity.
Yeah.
100% of the work is for me to just feel a little bit better so
Yeah.
that I can be open to receiving, which when I'm not feeling good, like we talked about last week, I'm not going to receive that inspired action.
Yeah.
When I'm feeling better, that's when I can be in that space of receiving that inspired action. I get infused with it. But
Yeah.
when I'm feeling, scared, worried, I have a lot of doubt, fear going on, whatever negative thoughts about he said, she said, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
I am blocking
Yeah.
that flow, that receiving that inspired action, that nice interaction with the neighbor, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
blocking all of that because it's there.
Yeah.
It's all there every day, all the time,
I think what that sentence,
available.
I think what that question, what if there's nothing wrong, unlocks for me is two things. One, it helps me see what I perceive to be things that are wrong in their true light, that they're contrast, that they're things I can learn from, that they're things I already learned from, or they're things that, you know, showed my progress of how I, maybe it didn't go as well as I wanted, but wow, I handle things. I've learned a lot in my life, and I handled it way better than I would have handled it, 5 years ago or something. So that's
Right.
one thing, is seeing the quote unquote negative stuff in their proper, truthful light as not terrible things. But
Mm-hmm.
it also gets me to focus on like how many good things are going on in the world and my life. Like
That's flipping the page. That is really like
there is
looking at the
this
other side of that.
going around that's getting a lot of, it's getting shared a lot, where somebody says like, if you're depressed about the news or whatever, like go sit on a rock outside and look up. And it's like, it's really hard to think of like, oh, everything's terrible. It's like, if you just look around at nature, like just the basics, the
I
sky, the trees, the
know, I
clouds, rocks,
know.
grass, it's like flowers.
I
And
was walking, I was walking Nibbles this morning, and I love hummingbirds, and
mhm,
I didn't see it, but I heard it, and it
yeah,
goes "Wee!" like whizzed by, and I'm like, I know that sound. I think it's the wind blowing through the hummingbird's wings going so fast
yeah,
that it makes that sound.
super
But
cool.
instantly, if someone says the word hummingbird or I see one, I instantly feel better.
Yeah,
Walking Nibbles at night, the sky, and the stars, the moon the past week was so big,
yeah,
and it was, there was a palm tree or some clouds, and it caught my eye, and I was just like, wow, I
yeah,
love the moon. Like the stars. Many years ago, my ex and I took our grandkids, Dominique and RJ, up to Palomar Mountain, and it's like 5,500 feet on
mm,
this huge mountain. No city lights anywhere to be seen. And I've never seen so many stars in my life. It was someone had asked me the other day, what's a moment that had you in awe? And I thought of that night we were up in Palomar Mountain, and we've seen several shooting stars.
yeah.
Yeah, nature, I can go to the ocean, and I'm like, I don't even have to be like, I definitely need to get my feet in the wet sand, but I can just go to the ocean, and I'm just like, oh yeah, there's a whole nother world. All the
It's weird.
problems just
Like
seem to melt away.
I live in what's the neighborhood I live in North Hollywood here is not considered one of the most beautiful of all the LA area. Although you really like you had when you came to visit me that one time, you turned me on to like how I mean I was aware, but you helped me see like how much beauty there is. But literally, I can just walk by kind of one of the more unattractive stretches by these radio towers that I live near, and but there's these amazing flowers that grow in the bushes right near there.
Oh,
And I don't think they were planted or anything. It's just like
yeah,
just
wildflowers.
nat- natural, yeah, naturally growing there,
Hmm.
and they're like the most beautiful, bright, vibrant colors ever. And it's like, as long as I'm paying attention, I'm like, oh my god, life is amazing. Like
Yeah.
life is amazing that we get to live, and it's yeah. I think it's really helpful. I want to meditate on that sentence more often because my brain, I've worked on it for a long time. It'll be a lifelong project. But like, man, like my default still sometimes is way too often, I would say, is what are the problems I gotta fix? What are the things going on in the world that shouldn't be the way they are? What are the things in my life that are problems that I gotta fix? And I wanted to say too, like I hope that we present this show and the content that we talk about here and the concepts not in that way. Like, because I think it would be possible to talk about this as like, you know what? If you don't know about the law of attraction and you don't know and you're not practicing the art of allowing enough or well enough, that's wrong, and you should listen to all our
Oh God,
episodes.
I
Fix
hope
the
that's not the case. If
yeah, no.
so, then we veered off
But you
somewhere
know what I
off
mean?
into
Like
the bushes.
I've had that thought of like, man, I'm really bad at the art of allowing today. I need to like
Uh,
that is not the way to go.
I'm
It's
always
like
like, oh, I really need to like this yesterday morning on my way to a meeting. I'm just like, oh my God, I am not. I was thinking, negative thoughts while I was making breakfast, and I'm like, God,
yeah,
I gotta knock this off. And then it was like I got in the car and I put on the Abraham CD that I have in there. Yes, my car still has a CD, and just listened. And I was like, by the time I got to my destination, I felt a lot better.
There was one story I wanted to tell because I think you brought up Gary Vee on this episode, and
Yeah.
he was super helpful for me in a lot of ways, changing my thinking about things. And I remember he has a lot of videos where people, he does these talks, and then he'll talk to people afterwards. He'll be in the lobby and like talk to people who come up to him,
Yeah.
and the guy that films him constantly will video it, and they'll put those videos up online. And I'll never forget. Like I remember one video of his. I think it was like a teenage woman, a teenage girl or young woman, and she was like, "I love you. You know what you're saying so much. I want to be positive in my life, but like I live with my family out of economic necessity right now, and my entire family is just super negative and toxic 24/7. Like, what do I do if I can't leave? I don't have the money to." Rent my own apartment, and everyone around me is just constantly, unavoidably like negative. And I'll never forget what he said. And he's like, just go to your room, put your headphones on, and just listen to positivity. Like, just listen to
Mhm.
positivity. Like, listen to me. Or if I'm not the thing that lights you on
Mhm.
fire with positivity, like find
Mhm.
another speaker, find another,
Mhm.
somebody on YouTube or a podcast or something where they talk positive, and literally block out, your family for as long as you can.
Like that. La, 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 la,
Put the
la.
that's
Yeah.
put the positivity between your ears and keep doing it and keep doing it, and it will shift. Like, it will shift. Um, and I just always remember that, as like, even if there's a lot of negative stuff going on, there's ways that we can sort of mitigate that by just
So
like
much. So
you
much.
to pay attention to. And our brains are not our friends in that. Sometimes we're going to get caught up in negative feedback loops, but we can always come to a point at some point where we go, okay, I am listening to way too much negative stuff. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to go look at the sunset, or I'm going to go to the beach, or I'm going to just,
Take a nap.
make a gratitude list or something, something that, or
Yeah.
listen to my favorite positive speaker or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Great discussion. Thank you so much, Stephanie, as always. And thank you for joining us today for this episode. We're so happy that you did. We hope you got something great out of it. Remember that at this point, oh, happy holidays to you, by the way. I meant to say something about that. Totally forgot. We're in the holiday season, so whatever you celebrate, we hope you're enjoying your holiday season and continue to. Remember that at this point, December of 2023, we are posting a brand new episode every single Monday morning for you. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast. All our social media links and our email address are down in the doodly-doo description of the YouTube video below. We also now have a Patreon that you can help support us financially if you're able to do that. We have different levels where you can give a little bit or a little bit more every month, whichever it is. It's up to you, to help financially keep the podcast going. And for those of you that are doing that, thank you so much. We are tremendously grateful to you as well. We wish you a happy and abundant week, and again, a very joyous, celebratory holiday season. And we will see you and hear you next week on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.